In this tutorial, we'll use the integrated 2D and 3D nature of Blender's Viewport Compositor to make a 3D garbage matte object that we'll later use to matte out the stage area outside the green screen. We'll then move it to a separate scene inside the same Blender render file and link the animated tracked camera into that scene so that the garbage matte 3D object is rendered with the same animated camera that the live action footage is tracked to. We'll later use that in the detailed 2D composite to garbage matte out the unwanted parts of the stage, all without having to keyframe animate a garbage matte. JetSet has a built-in geometry scanning function that AutoShot will automatically import if it's used, but the great thing about the Viewport Compositor is that we can build up a matching 3D model visually even without the scan data. So let's get started. We have our AutoShot created render file with the Viewport Composite active. We don't need to see the background scene here, so we'll click on our Scene tab and we're going to disable our background scene. So we'll rotate around our subject so we can see the 3D world. So we're going to hit Shift A, add a plane, and make sure its Z coordinate is 0, as our tracking origin was on the ground when this was shot. So we want to have our garbage matte be on the same floor plane as our tracking data. We'll hit G to grab, and we'll slide it over here so that it's under the actor. Now we can hit numpad 0 and go back to the camera view. So now select the plane. You might have to double click it. Remember, if you select once, you're going to select on the transparent camera plane. So double click this to get to the plane. Then we can hit S to scale. And already we have something pretty cool going on. Because our camera tracking is accurate and the x-axis of the tracking origin was reasonably parallel to the back wall when the tracking was set, the plane aligns cleanly with the scene. So we can move the timeline back and forth to see it track. That's really cool. It's fun. Well, now we want the back wall. With the plane selected, we can hit Tab to go into edit mode. And we can hit the number 2 to select edge. And then we're going to pick the back edge. Hit E, Z, and then we can extrude this vertically. And then we can move back and forth in time to see if the tracking matches. Okay, well, we can see that the back wall isn't really lining up with the stage wall, so we probably don't have it at the right depth. Now we can press 3 to pick polygons, and then we can pick the back polygon. Now we can hit GY so that we can move the back polygon, and we can move to align it with the rear wall. And you can hold Shift and move the mouse back and forth to give you more fine-grained control. So let's scroll forward in time to see how it's working, all the way to the end, the shot at frame 515. This tells us how far the matte needs to go. Now we can pick 2 for edges, and then press the front edge of this, and then we'll type GY and extend it out. And we're going to pick the top edge, and we're going to type GZ and extend the top edge up. We can scroll back to frame 490. And we're going to see that we need to move the left side of the matte out a little bit. We have edges selected here. We're going to double click on the left edge of the garbage matte. And we're going to press GX to scale it left. Do that again. So now we're going to move back and check our matte. Remember, it's a garbage matte. We just wanted to cover him and to avoid covering the edge of the stage. We'll end up masking out these with a separate matte later on. And next we notice at about frame 380, his elbow gets in the way of that sharp corner. Frame 409. Okay, so we're seeing that back bottom edge of the garbage matte doesn't really match the curvature of the cyclorama. We still have edges selected. We can click on that back, and we can hit Control B for bevel. We can do edge, bevel edge. There we go. Drag it down until we bevel the edge and it starts to more closely match the curvature of the stage. Let's see if he's covered through his range of motion. Yep, barely covered. Great. There's a couple edge cases right where the elbow is, and we can handle those edge cases with the AI mats in a later stage of the compositing. This will get us most of the way there. Okay, great. We're going to hit Tab to exit edit mode. Now, this is great, but we don't want to see the garbage matte in our main scene. So we're going to select it, hit F2, name it Psych Matte. So we're going to highlight it, and we're going to hit Control C to copy it. Now we're going to click the New Scene button here, and we're going to pick New, going to name that garbage at the new scene. And we're going to hit Control V to paste it. So there's our cyc mat, but the tracked camera information is still in the other scene. So we're going to switch the outliner to Scenes View. We'll open up the Scene the Garbage Mat scenes and open up Objects. And now we can drag and drop the orange camera into the scene collection of the garbage mat. So we can just grab this, drop it into the scene collection, and our camera appears. And look at that. Camera has the animation along with it. So if we highlight it and switch to the frame, we're in the garbage mat scene, but now we have the tracked camera of the original scene. Now we can go ahead and delete the cyc mat from the original scene. And go back to the garbage mat scene. We can switch to our normal view layer appearance. We want to make sure that this renders white in this scene so we can make it into a matte. So we're going to hit Z, go to rendered, and it's black. All right, so by default, the object is black because it doesn't have a material. And so we're going to highlight the material tab and we're going to click new. And then we're going to scroll down to emission and make it into a pure white material. And now as we scroll back and forth, that's going to be a nice garbage mat. Now we're going to change back to the original scene. And now we're missing our background scene. So let's go back into our scene tab and reselect our linked background scene. And then we can switch back to our material preview. All right, and we are back in our original scene. Multi-pass compositing doesn't yet work in the real-time viewport compositor. So we can't yet bring the garbage mat into our real-time compositor because that would require another pass. So we'll do the next step in the 2D compositor of integrating the garbage mat render into the comp. But you can track the progress of multi-pass compositing in the viewport compositor at this link in the Blender developers blog. And I'll put the link below in the notes because this is really a wonderful way to be able to handle integrated 2D and 3D rendering and compositing. And next up, we'll go to using this 3D garbage mat scene to mat out the stage.